Hey, how's it going? This is Dan from modular.dev. Today, we're going to try a new project. We finished up the Blazor chat application last time, and this time I want to get going with a new one. So the native file system API is something that I've been wanting to look at for a while now, and I've got a link to it in the description of this video. And basically what it is it allows you to save files and open files from your local system on the website. So up until now that hasn't really been possible with the web, but it will be going forward here. So first things first, the first thing you have to do is in Chrome/flags. Right now this is only available in Chrome, and specifically I'm using Canary Chrome, which is Chrome 87 at the moment. And the reason I'm doing that is because some of these things are changing. This API is still in origin trial, so things are changing pretty rapidly. So I would definitely use the latest version of Chrome that's currently in development. And this is kind of based off of this article here on web.dev /native file system. However, there's a few things actually out of date with this article that we'll kind of go over because, like I say, things are changing so quickly. I think with Chrome 85 launching today, maybe some of these things may get updated on this documentation by the time you read this. But if not, I'll kind of go over some of the changes that I saw when I was experimenting with it earlier today. So yeah, well, like I said, for now, you need to go to Chrome/flags and turn on native file system API. And this is the native file system API right here. Just change that from default to enabled, and then relaunch your browser. So that's all you have to do to get it going locally. Now, if you want to go in production with this, you're also going to have to get an origin trial key, and it explains it here how to do that on this web.dev. I think from what I'm seeing here, they're expecting Chrome 86 to be the launch version, in which case you won't have to get an origin trial, but I'm not really sure. I don't think they quite know. They're probably still looking at the data that they're getting from the origin trial. So anyways, yeah, go ahead and make sure you're kind of paying attention on this web.dev/native file system if you want to use this. As far as Safari and Firefox, I haven't heard anything from them, so I'm not sure if they are going to plan on doing this or not. But it's a cool thing to try out, even if you're not going to use it in production. I hope that it will be available to the general public pretty soon, because it is pretty slick what I was able to do with it. And what I will show you is pretty cool. So with that being said, let's get started. I also had one more link that I put in the description, and that is to the, let me see if I can find it here. The native file system, what is this called? The spec for the native file system. So if you're looking for that, it's just wicg.github.io/native file system. And this is going to be talking about, this is a W3 standard thing that they want to bring out. Obviously, Google's the one kind of leading it, but they're hoping that all the browsers will get on board. So yeah, definitely check the spec out. That's how I actually found some of these things that had changed that weren't in this web.dev blog post here. So between those two things, you should have everything you need to do the native file system. So let's go ahead and start a new Blazor project then. And when we do that, we'll and you don't have to use Blazor, by the way. You can use this native file system on any type of web project. You can use it on just a static HTML page. You can use it on Vue, React, Angular, whatever you want to do. I just happen to use Blazor because it's my favorite one out of those. But you know, you can use it on anything you want. So everything I'm showing you today isn't specific to Blazor, but that's how I'm going to do it. So if you're in Visual Studio, you know, you can get Visual Studio 2019, or you can get Visual Studio Code, or whatever you want to do. But I'm going to use Visual Studio 2019, and I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to use this Blazor app here. So I'm going to put it in a different folder. Let's see. Put it in demos, and I'm going to put it in, I'm going to call it native file system. All right. And this is going to be a Blazor WebAssembly app, not a Blazor server app. So we'll just check that one. All right. So we got this lovely little template that they give us. And the first thing that I want to do is delete some pages here. We only really want the home page for now. So I'm going to delete these two. And I'm also going to remove them from the layout, the navigation layout. You don't have to do this, but I'm just going to clean it up for myself. I'll make this a tad bit bigger so you can see what I'm typing out here. So let's go to the home page, and I'm going to delete this. And the first thing that I want to do is create a text box, or a text area rather, that would show the contents of the file that you opened. There's a couple ways to do it, but the preferred way to do it would be an edit form, and then inside that edit form you have a text input text area. And whenever we have an edit form, we need to bind it to something. So it's kind of a weird Blazor quirk that I do hope they get rid of at some point, but we have to basically bind it to some kind of model. So I'm going to create a string file content. I'm just going to set that equal to an empty string for now, and I'm going to set my model equal to file content. And I'm also going to bind this input text area to file content. And what that means is whenever this value changes, it will update on the site, and whenever I change it on the site, it will update it in the code. So it's bound both ways. And that's how we can kind of get started with this. I'm also going to give it a little bit of CSS here, just so that we can see it nice and easy. I'm going to give it a style of width 800 pixels, height 500 pixels, and maybe font size of 24 pixels, just so we can kind of see what's going on. And then also we need to create a few buttons. Let's just start with one. And this button is going to open a file. So whenever I click this button, I want it to open a file from my computer, read the file, and put it into this text box. So I can do, I can create a button, and then I can do on click here. This on click is going to get called every time I click the button. And again, this is a C# function, not a JavaScript function. So if you're new to Blazor, Blazor's done in WebAssembly. It's not done in JavaScript at all. So if you're not familiar with that, maybe check out one of my other videos. I'm not going to explain the whole Blazor here, but definitely ask if you have any questions about that or about anything else throughout this video, or if you're watching later. So we have a button on click, and we're going to call a function when that happens. So I'm just going to create a couple functions out here. Private void on click, or on open file, and I'm just going to call on open file here. On open file. Okay. So what do I want to happen? I want to call the open file picker, basically. Pick a file and update my file content with whatever that file had in it. And right now, the only way to do that is through JavaScript using the native file system API. So we have to do some JavaScript interop here because we're in C#. We need to transition over to JavaScript. And how you can do that is in Blazor is pretty simple. You just, at the top of your file, you say inject IJS runtime, and then give it some kind of name. So I'm just going to say JS runtime. Now I can use that JS runtime down here, and I can invoke a function that I have written in JavaScript. So let's go ahead and write that function and then come back here and fill this out. I don't have a JavaScript file yet, so let me create one. I'm just going to call it main.js, I guess. All right. A couple different ways you can create the function. I'm just going to do it this way. Window.openFile equals, and I'm going to create the function that way. So this is now a function I can call into. I'm just going to do console.log hello world. I'll alert it just so you can see it really fast. And if we don't see that alert, that means we did not call this function successfully. That means something went wrong. So let's go ahead and try putting in the name of that function here. So if you recall, I named it openFile. So we'll call it openFile here. And for a type, we'll just give it a type of object. If you don't know what type to call it, like if you're not expecting anything back or something like that, just call it object. For some reason, they didn't give you the option to not specify a type. I would like to see that for void functions, but that's okay. So that's an async. Oops, that's an async function. So we're just going to await it, and await. If you're not familiar with await, that's just saying, okay, wait for that to be over, and then continue on in this function. And in order to use await, this has to be an async task instead of a void. Okay, I think we got it all set up now. We have an edit form with a button that when we click it, it should be calling this JavaScript function. And when the JavaScript function gets called, we're just going to alert hello. The only thing I forgot to do is actually put this JavaScript file on my page. So in my index.html, I'll just do script source equals main.js. Okay, let's give it a shot. All right. So you can see the function got called successfully. It says hello on an alert box. So that's awesome. So I think now what I want to do is actually open up a file using the native file system API. So what we can do is kind of follow along with this. But like I said, there is going to be a couple changes that we'll have to take into account. So let's go down here to kind of where they started right here. So they have a choose file system entries. And that actually did change, but we can take a good number of this code and paste it into our JavaScript file. So, and again, I'm using Chrome Canary, which is 87. That's what I would recommend if you're going to be using this. And hello, Natwali. Good to see you again. And if you want to change your browser in Visual Studio, you can change it here. So you'll see I'm in Google Chrome Canary. So if you do want to use the native file system picker, I would definitely use that for this. So anyways, in the main.js, let's go in here. I'm going to copy, or I'm going to paste kind of what I copied from the other link that I was on. And so I'm just creating a file handle variable, and I don't need this anymore. And inside my open file function, I'm going to await window.choose file system entries. Now, as I said, this did change. with Chrome 85, I think, just coming out today. But anyways, in Chrome 87, which is what I'm using in Canary, this will not work. So what you need to use instead is, you can find it in this this native file system spec. Let me see if I can find it here. So it used to be choose file system entries, and now it is show open file picker. So that's what we're going to use instead, show open file picker. Okay, and that's going to return basically a list or an array of file handles, because the show open file picker does allow you to pick multiple files. So what here, let me do this. If I go back, and I'm going to grab the next section of code from this documentation. And again, we will have to change a little bit of it, but that's fine. So file handle.get file. Now it's going to be file handle bracket 0 to get the first one here. We're going to get that file, and then we're going to get the contents of that file, and then we're just going to return those contents. And that's all we have to do in this function. So we're grabbing a file using show open file picker. We're getting that file in memory. We're reading it, and then we're returning the file back to Blazor. So now in Blazor, we can go into index.razor here. Instead of returning an object here, it's going to return a string. And let's take that string, and actually we'll just set file content equal to that string. So if everything goes right, we're going to open the file, get the string from it, and update our text area with the contents of that file. So let's see if we did that right. Also, I'm going to put this button on a new line just so it's not way off on the side. All right. I guess first things first, I need to create a file to open. Well, we did get an error, so let's see what the error is. Could not find open file in window. Oh, await is only valid in an async function. So we got an error in our JavaScript file. And that's because we did not put async here. All right, let's try that again. Okay, no errors in the console this time. Okay, we're opening a file. Let's go ahead and I want to open it to the path of this thing just so I can kind of keep it all contained. Okay, let's grab something from the www root. Let's see here. Just make a new text document. Demo.text. Just gonna put a little bit of something in there real quick. Okay, so now we have demo.text. If we open it, we should see hello world come into our text box, because what we're doing now is we're taking that, opening that up, reading it, and putting it in that text box. And there we go. It does say hello world, so that was successful. That in and of itself isn't anything too spectacular, because we've been able to open files from people's computers for a long time using the file input thing, whatever it's called in HTML. So this isn't necessarily that great, but where it comes really handy is when we're able to save right back to that file. So let's go back into the index.razor. I'm going to create another button here, and we'll say save file, and that'll call on save file. And again, this is another function here, so I'm just going to copy this on save file, so I match that, and this time we're going to call save file in JavaScript. This is going to be our JavaScript function that we're calling. And we actually want to pass a parameter to this JavaScript function. And you can do that by just putting it in there. So what I want to pass in is the file content, which is the string from my text box, right? That way, JavaScript will say, okay, this is what you want to save. Good. Let's go ahead and save that to that same file that you have open when you clicked Open File. All right, now this save file isn't going to actually return anything, so I'm just going to put object here and just await that. All right, so let's go back to our JavaScript real quick. And this time, I'll just paste it, and I'm going to call it save file. And this time, it's not an open file picker. It's something different. And again, we can look at the spec. Where did it go? Here it is. Show save file picker. Show save file picker. And then it's slightly different to save a file. If you look at the web.dev again, you're going to see a couple different scenarios you have. One is saving the changes to the disk right here. So if we take that same file handle that we have, we can create, it's called create writable. And create writable is going to basically allow us to create a write stream. It'll ask for permissions the first time, but after that it won't. So let's go ahead and grab some of this code. We also have to close it here at the end, but it should be pretty close. So, and again, the only difference is we got to do bracket 0 here, and that should be the only other changes we have to make. We have to pass in contents here though as a parameter, because remember we're passing that from Blazor right here as a parameter. Okay. So actually, we don't actually have to do this here because we're just going to save it to the same file handle we had before. Let's try it. Okay, I'm going to open up demo.txt. We got hello world, and let's change that to hello world. Save the file, and what happened? Did it work? Let's see. It did not, so let's see what's going on. Do we have our updated file? We do. Oh, okay. Not sure if it didn't, maybe I misclicked the first time, I'm not sure, but I think now it's working. Let's see. Yep. It updated it here in Visual Studio, if you can see that. It says hello worlds. So right now I can make as many changes as I want. Save file again, and this time it shouldn't have to ask for permission because I already have it. And now if I'm back in Visual Studio, you can see it updated it in real time. So now we're able to open and save directly to our file stream using the JavaScript native file system API, and we're calling that through Blazor. So definitely some interesting things here. Let's take it one step further, and then I think next time we're going to go a little bit deeper, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But I wanted to do it so we can save it to a different file than the one that we originally chose. So I'm going to say, I just copied this save file down here. I'm going to say save new file as this button. And it's going to call a different method, save new file. On save new file and save new file. Okay. Now we have to create that file in the JavaScript, or that function in the JavaScript. So let's go ahead and do that. And here is where we want to update the file handler to a different file. So here's where we're going to do window.show save file picker. So let's give that a shot. If all went well, we should be saving this to a brand new file. Okay, open it up first. Okay, let's try saving it now. All right, we're going to save it to demo2.txt, I guess. And we have an error. Let's see what that is. Cannot read property, create writable of undefined. Okay. Let's just set a breakpoint here and see what we get. Save new file. It's going to pop that up. Okay. So I guess on a save, you don't have to do bracket 0. I guess that's only on a fetch, which makes sense. When you're showing a new save file picker, you're not able to save multiple files at the same time. So that does make sense now that I think about it. So we'll remove that and try it again. All right, open a file. We'll do this one again. Save it as this one. And did it work? Let's see. Yes, it did. So we were able to save that file, which is awesome. Now let's do one more thing. If you noticed, when I hit save new file, I could save it as any file type I wanted, when really it should only be a text file. So let's go ahead and figure out how to do that. So if in the spec on the show save file picker, it does accept some options, and you can see here what the different options are, and they're basically the different types that you can do. So I'm just going to copy this and make some modifications to it. All right. So we'll put the options here, and I don't want images, of course, so we'll delete that. And I don't think I want that. All we really want is plain text files ending with .txt. So now that's all you really have to do. If you wanted to have multiple file types that you could do, you would put them comma separated like I was showing you before. Otherwise, let's go ahead and put the options in here. Now we're showing a save file picker with those options. So hopefully that's all we'll see when we're trying to save the file. All right, open up demo.txt. We'll save a new one. And look down here, it says save as type text files. Now we still can choose all files, I guess, but it's defaulting to text files, which is good. And if I don't put an extension on there, if I just put file name demo, it should, oh, yeah, that already exists, demo3. It created a demo3.txt, so that's good. That's exactly what we wanted to happen. So I think that's about all I want to go through today. Next time, I think what I want to do is kind of use some of the things that we learned from the Blazor chat application with SignalR and do some kind of a file sharing application where two people can have the same files shared between them, and if one makes a change, the other will get notified of that change, and then we can update the file on their system. So I think that's where I want to take this next. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching.